They laughed. Actually laughed. Standing in my own kitchen, around my own table, my sister Carol and my brother Dennis had the audacity to laugh as they discussed what they'd do with my house after I died. When she dies, we decide who gets her house. Those words came out of Carol's mouth like she was discussing what to order for lunch. My name is Vivian Marshall. I'm 72 years old, and I've lived in Asheville, North Carolina my entire life. Before I tell you what happened next, I need to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city and state in the comments, because this story is about to show you exactly why you need to protect yourself, no matter where you live. Now, let me take you back to how this nightmare began. It was a Tuesday morning in March when my doctor delivered news that changed everything. Stage 2 breast cancer. Treatable, he assured me. Good prognosis. But when you're 72 and you hear the word cancer, your mind doesn't hear treatable. It hears a clock ticking. I'd been a widow for 6 years. My husband Frank and I had built our life together in the beautiful Craftsman home we bought in 1978. 4 bedrooms, wraparound porch, mountain views that took your breath away every single morning. We'd raised our daughter Jennifer there. We'd hosted every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every family gathering for 45 years. After Frank passed, that house became everything to me. Every creaky floorboard held a memory. Every room echoed with laughter from decades past. Jennifer had moved to Seattle for work, but she called every Sunday without fail. She was my rock, my heart. But Carol and Dennis? They'd been circling like vultures ever since Frank died. Carol was my younger sister by 4 years. She'd married a man who made poor business decisions one after another, and they declared bankruptcy twice. Dennis was our baby brother, 58 years old, and still acting like money grew on trees. Between his gambling habit and his third wife's shopping addiction, he was always one step away from foreclosure. I'd helped them both over the years. Thousands of dollars in loans that were never repaid. I'd co-signed for Dennis's car. I'd paid Carol's property taxes 1 year when she was about to lose her house, because that's what family does, right? After my diagnosis, I made the mistake of telling them I was updating my will. I wanted everything in order, wanted to make sure Jennifer was taken care of, that the house she grew up in would be hers. It seemed responsible, logical. That's when they started visiting more often. At first, I thought they actually cared. Carol brought casseroles. Dennis mowed my lawn. They asked about my treatment, drove me to appointments, sat in waiting rooms. I was touched. Maybe the cancer had brought us closer. Maybe family really did matter when things got tough. What a fool I was. The mask didn't slip until that Tuesday in late April. I just returned from a chemotherapy session, exhausted and nauseous. I went upstairs to lie down, but I couldn't sleep. I came back down for some ginger tea and heard their voices in the kitchen. That's when my entire world shattered. I stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs, my hand gripping the banister so hard my knuckles went white. Their voices carried clearly through the quiet house. The location alone makes it worth at least $600,000, Dennis was saying. Maybe more. Have you seen what houses in this neighborhood are going for? Carol's voice responded, sharp with excitement. We split it 50-50. When she's gone, we petition the court together. Jennifer's all the way in Seattle. She won't fight us, especially if we claim Vivian promised us the house for taking care of her. My blood turned to ice. What if she's already changed the will? Dennis asked. There was worry in his tone. Carol laughed. Actually laughed. So what? Wills get contested all the time. We have proof we've been her primary caregivers. We've been documenting everything, every meal we bring, every appointment we drive her to. We'll say she wasn't in her right mind during treatment, the chemo fog. We'll get a lawyer to argue she was coerced or wasn't competent. Jennifer will lose her mind, Dennis said, but he didn't sound concerned. He sounded almost gleeful. Jennifer abandoned her mother to move across the country for a job, Carol shot back. We're the ones who stayed. We're the ones who've been here. When she dies, we decide who gets her house. The courts will see it our way. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to breathe quietly through the nausea that had nothing to do with chemotherapy. These were my siblings, my blood, people I'd helped countless times, trusted, loved. And they were planning to steal my daughter's inheritance right out from under her. Dennis spoke again. What about selling it? We could both use the money now. We have to wait, Carol said firmly. If we push too hard while she's alive, she might catch on. We play the devoted siblings. We document everything. And when the time comes, we make our move fast. Jennifer won't know what hit her. When the time comes, Dennis repeated. They were talking about my death like it was an appointment on their calendar. I wanted to storm in there, wanted to scream at them, throw them out of my house, tell them exactly what I thought of their disgusting plan. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the survival instinct you develop when you've lived 72 years. Maybe it was the clarity that sometimes comes with shock. If I confronted them now, they'd just deny everything. They'd twist it, make excuses, maybe even accelerate their plans. No, I needed to be smart about this. I crept back upstairs as quietly as I'd come down, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give me away. I climbed back into bed, pulled the covers up and stared at the ceiling while my mind raced. They thought I was dying. They thought I was weak, vulnerable, easy prey. They thought they could take everything Frank and I had built and leave Jennifer with nothing. I closed my eyes and let a small smile cross my face. They had no idea who they were dealing with. That night, after Carol and Dennis finally left, I sat at Frank's old desk in the study. My hands were still shaking, but not from the cancer or the chemo. This was pure adrenaline. I needed to think clearly. I needed a plan. First, I called Jennifer. She answered on the second ring, like always. "Mom, how was treatment today?" Hearing her voice almost broke me. But I kept my tone light. "Tiring, honey, but I'm managing. Listen, I need to ask you something important. Can you take some time off work in the next few weeks?" "Of course. Is everything okay? Is it the cancer?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. I just need your help with some legal matters. Estate planning, paperwork, that sort of thing. But Jennifer, this is important. Don't mention this to Carol or Dennis. You know how they worry." There was a pause. Jennifer had always been perceptive. "Mom, what's going on?" "I'll explain everything when you get here. Can you come down next week?" "I'll book a flight tonight." After we hung up, I opened my laptop. Despite what my siblings thought, I wasn't some technologically helpless old woman. I'd taken computer classes at the senior center. I knew how to research. I spent the next 3 hours learning everything I could about property law in North Carolina, estate planning, and how to protect assets from will contests. The information was overwhelming, but certain facts became crystal clear. Carol was right about one thing. Wills could be contested. If my siblings claimed I wasn't of sound mind during my illness, if they presented all their evidence of caregiving while painting Jennifer as an absent daughter, they might actually have a case. Not a strong one, but enough to tie everything up in court for years. Jennifer would spend her inheritance fighting them instead of grieving her mother. That was unacceptable. I kept reading. There had to be a way to protect her, to ensure she got what Frank and I had always intended for her. Then, around midnight, I found it. A living transfer. If I sold or transferred the house while I was still alive, there would be nothing for Carol and Dennis to contest. The property would already belong to someone else before I died. But I couldn't just give the house to Jennifer. My siblings were watching too closely now. Any direct transfer to her would raise immediate red flags. They'd claim I was being manipulated, possibly even try to challenge my competency before the transfer was complete. No, I needed something cleaner, something they wouldn't see coming until it was too late. I thought about Frank, about what he would do in this situation. He'd always been the strategic one, the chess player who thought 5 moves ahead. I could almost hear his voice. Sometimes, Vivian, the best defense is a good offense. An idea began to form. It was bold, maybe even a little crazy, but the more I thought about it, the more perfect it became. I would sell the house, really sell it, to a legitimate buyer through proper legal channels, everything above board and documented. And Carol and Dennis wouldn't know until the deed was already done. The next morning, I waited until I heard Dennis's truck pull away. He'd started coming by every morning to check on me before I made my calls. First was Rebecca Chen, my attorney. She'd handled Frank's will and had been after me for months to update my own estate planning. "Rebecca, I need to see you today. It's urgent." Her assistant tried to tell me she was booked solid, but Rebecca picked up the line. Vivian, what's wrong? I need to sell my house. Immediately. And I need it done in a way that's absolutely bulletproof. There was a long silence. Come to my office at 2 o'clock. Don't tell anyone you're coming. Next, I called Sarah Edmonds. She'd been my real estate agent when Frank and I bought the house back in 1978, and she'd stayed a friend ever since. She was retired now, but I knew she still kept her license active. Sarah, I need a favor, a big one. Name it. I need to sell my house fast, very fast. I need a buyer who won't ask too many questions but will pay fair market value. Can you help? Sarah had known me for 45 years. She heard something in my voice. Are you in trouble, Viv? Not yet, but I'm about to put a stop to people who think I am. Give me until this afternoon. My last call was to my bank. I wanted to know exactly what accounts I had, what was in Frank's name, what was in mine, and what options I had for moving money around quickly if needed. By the time Carol showed up at noon with another casserole, I was ready. You look tired, she said, studying my face as she bustled into the kitchen. Did you sleep okay? Like a baby, I lied, accepting her cheek kiss. You're so good to me, Carol. She preened. That's what family's for. Where's Dennis? He left around 9, said something about running errands. Carol set the casserole in the refrigerator, then turned with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I've been thinking, Viv, you should probably think about making things easier on everyone. You know, in case the cancer... She trailed off delicately. In case I die? I said bluntly. She flinched. Don't say it like that, but yes, maybe you should consider what would be simplest. For Jennifer especially. She's so far away. The burden of managing your estate from Seattle, dealing with the house, all of that. Wouldn't it be easier if Dennis and I handled things? We're right here. I took a sip of my tea, watching her over the rim. What a thoughtful suggestion. She brightened immediately. You think so? Because Dennis and I were talking, and we really think... I'll definitely consider it, I interrupted. In fact, I have an appointment this afternoon to discuss some estate matters. Carol's eyes sharpened. With who? Just some financial planning, boring paperwork stuff. Nothing to worry about. I could see her wanting to push, to demand details. But she couldn't, not without revealing her hand. Well, call me if you need a ride, she finally said. I will. After she left, I smiled. The game was on. Rebecca's office was in a converted Victorian downtown. I'd always loved the high ceilings and original woodwork. Today, though, I barely noticed. I was focused on one thing only. Tell me everything, Rebecca said the moment her assistant closed the door. I did. Every word I'd overheard. Every ugly detail of Carol and Dennis's plan. Rebecca's expression grew darker with each sentence. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. Those absolute vultures. Can they really contest my will and win? Win. Probably not. But they could drag it out, make it expensive, make it painful for Jennifer. She tapped her pen on her desk. Your idea about selling the house is actually brilliant. If the property isn't part of your estate when you die, there's nothing for them to contest. But Vivian, you need to understand, once you sell this house, you'll need somewhere to live. I've thought about that. I can rent an apartment, or maybe it's time I move closer to Jennifer anyway. And your siblings will know the moment this house sells. The deed becomes public record. Let them know. By then it'll be too late for them to do anything about it. Rebecca studied me for a long moment. You've really thought this through. I've had a lot of time to think lately. She opened a legal pad. Okay, let's do this properly. To make this ironclad, I need to document your mental competency. I'll have you evaluated by a psychologist I trust. We'll get your oncologist to provide a statement that your medication and treatment aren't affecting your cognitive abilities. We'll document everything so thoroughly that even if your siblings try to claim you weren't of sound mind, they won't have a leg to stand on. How long will all this take? I can have most of it done within a week if we move fast. My phone rang. Sarah Edmonds. I'm putting you on speaker, I told her. My attorney Rebecca Chen is here. Perfect, ladies. I think I found your buyer. My nephew Marcus just moved back to Asheville from Charlotte. He's a cardiac surgeon at Mission Hospital, divorced, no kids. He's been looking for a house in your neighborhood specifically. When I told him about your place, he jumped at it. Did you tell him why I'm selling? I asked. Absolutely not. As far as he knows, you're downsizing because of your health and want to move closer to family out west, which isn't even a lie. Will he pay fair market value? I already pulled the comps. Houses on your street have been selling between $550,000 and $650,000. Yours is one of the nicest. I think we could ask $600,000 and he'd take it. He wants to see it tomorrow. My hands were trembling. This was really happening. Rebecca, I asked, can we move that fast? If he's serious and can secure financing quickly, yes. Or if he's paying cash, even faster. He's paying cash, Sarah said. He sold his practice in Charlotte. Money isn't an issue. I looked at Rebecca. She nodded slowly. Set up the showing, I told Sarah. After I hung up, Rebecca reached across her desk and squeezed my hand. You're one tough lady, Vivian Marshall. I had a good teacher, I said, thinking of Frank. Now let's make sure my daughter gets what she deserves. Jennifer flew in the next morning. When I picked her up at the airport, she took one look at my face and pulled me into a fierce hug. Whatever it is, Mom, we'll handle it together. In the car, I told her everything. She listened in stunned silence until I finished. Those absolute... She stopped herself, breathing hard. Aunt Carol and Uncle Dennis, I can't believe it. Actually, no, I can believe it. Remember when Dad died and they tried to convince you to sell his coin collection to help with expenses? I'd forgotten about that. They said it was just gathering dust. It was worth $40,000. Dad had been collecting those coins since he was a boy. Jennifer's jaw was tight. They've always been like this. I just didn't want to see it. Well, now we're going to do something about it. I explained the plan. Jennifer's eyes grew wider. Mom, that's actually genius. But where will you live? I'm 72, honey. I've been rattling around in that big house alone for 6 years. Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time I moved to Seattle, closer to you. Her eyes filled with tears. Really? Really, but first we need to get through today. Marcus Chen is coming to see the house at 3 o'clock. Carol and Dennis can't know about it. What do we tell them? Nothing. Dennis comes by every morning. Carol usually stops by around lunchtime. If we time this right, they'll never know Marcus was here. When we got home at 11, sure enough, at noon, Carol's car pulled into the driveway. Showtime, Jennifer muttered. Carol's face went tight when she saw Jennifer in the kitchen. Well, this is a surprise. Nobody told me you were coming to town. It was last minute, Jennifer said coolly. I wanted to see Mom. Of course. Family's so important. Carol's smile was plastic. How long are you staying? As long as Mom needs me. The tension was thick enough to cut. I intervened. Carol brought another casserole yesterday. Isn't that sweet? Very thoughtful, Jennifer said, her tone suggesting it was anything but. Carol left 20 minutes later, clearly unsettled by Jennifer's presence. Good. Marcus arrived exactly at 3 o'clock. He was maybe 45 with kind eyes and an easy smile. Sarah had briefed him on the situation, not the whole truth, but enough that he understood discretion was important. He fell in love with the house immediately. I watched him run his hand along the original woodwork in the hallway, test the solid weight of the doors, admire the craftsman details Frank and I had preserved over the years. My grandparents had a house like this, he said quietly. Same era, same style. I've been looking for something like it for 2 years. In the kitchen, he stared out at the mountain view. This is perfect, absolutely perfect. Sarah caught my eye. She knew we had him. I'd like to make an offer, Marcus said, turning to face us. Full asking price. Cash, I can close in 2 weeks. Jennifer grabbed my hand. I accept, I said. And just like that, the house where I'd lived for 45 years belonged to someone else. Now I just had to keep Carol and Dennis from finding out until it was too late. The next 10 days were the most stressful of my life, and that includes getting a cancer diagnosis. Rebecca moved heaven and earth to expedite everything. The psychological evaluation happened within 48 hours. I passed with flying colors naturally. My oncologist provided a detailed letter stating that my medication had minimal cognitive side effects and that I was fully capable of making important decisions. The home inspection, appraisal, and title search all happened in rapid succession. Marcus's loan officer, though he was paying cash, he still went through bank for tax purposes, expedited the paperwork. And through it all, I had to pretend everything was normal with Carol and Dennis. Dennis showed up every morning like clockwork. Carol came by with food every other day. They both asked repeatedly about my financial planning appointment, clearly fishing for information. "Just boring paperwork," I said each time. "You know how it is." Jennifer was magnificent. She played the dutiful daughter, thanking them profusely for taking such good care of Mom, complimenting Carol's casseroles, helping Dennis with yard work. She was so convincing I almost believed she didn't hate them. At night, after they left, we'd sit at the kitchen table and plan where I'd live, how we'd move my belongings, what we'd do with 45 years of accumulated possessions. "Keep what matters, donate the rest," Jennifer said. "We'll get you a nice condo in Seattle, walking distance to me. You'll love it, Mom." On day 8, Carol caught me packing a box in the bedroom. "Spring cleaning?" she asked, her eyes sharp. My heart nearly stopped. "Just going through some old clothes. You know how much junk accumulates." She walked further into the room, studying the half-filled box. "You're packing a lot for someone who's just cleaning out closets." "The cancers made me think about things," I said carefully, "about how much stuff I've accumulated, how little of it actually matters." Her expression softened slightly. "Well, when the time comes, Dennis and I will help Jennifer sort through everything. Don't worry about that." When the time comes. Those words again, like my death was an approaching holiday. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more like it, please hit that subscribe button right now. You won't believe what happens next. On day 12, Rebecca called. "We're ready to close. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. "Tomorrow," I breathed. "Marcus will wire the funds tonight. Tomorrow you'll sign the papers, he'll sign the papers, and the house will be his. Are you ready?" Was I? This was the house where Frank and I had built our life, where we'd raised Jennifer, where every room held memories I'd never get back. But those memories were in my heart, not in the walls. And more importantly, this house represented Jennifer's future, her security, everything Frank and I had worked for. I'm ready. The next morning, I told Dennis I had a doctor's appointment. I told Carol the same thing when she called. Jennifer drove me to Rebecca's office in silence. Marcus was already there, looking nervous and excited in equal measure. Rebecca laid out the papers. "Let's do this," I said. And with a signature, 45 years of history became the past. The house was no longer mine. And Carol and Dennis had no idea. I waited 3 days. 3 days to let the deed record. 3 days to make sure everything was legally bulletproof. 3 days to move my most precious belongings into storage. Then I invited Carol and Dennis to lunch. They arrived within minutes of each other, both surprised to see the other. I'd told each of them I wanted to discuss something important about my estate. Jennifer was there too, which I hadn't mentioned. Carol's smile faltered when she saw her. "What's this about?" Dennis asked, looking between us. "Sit down," I said, "both of you." Something in my tone made them comply immediately. I'd dropped the frail, sick woman act. This was me, the woman who'd raised a daughter, built a life, survived losing her husband, and was beating cancer. "I need to tell you something," I began. "Last week I sold this house." The silence was deafening. "You what?" Carol finally said. "I sold it. The closing was 3 days ago. The deed has been recorded. The new owner takes possession next month." Dennis's face went red. "You can't do that. This is our—" He stopped himself. "Your what?" I asked quietly. "This is your house?" "That's not what I meant," he backtracked quickly. "I just mean this is a family decision. You can't just sell the family home without talking to us." "Actually, I can. It's my house. Or was." Carol had gone very still. She was the smarter of the two, already calculating. "Where are you going to live?" "I'm moving to Seattle, near Jennifer. We've already found a lovely condo." "This is Jennifer's doing," Dennis said, pointing at my daughter. "She's been manipulating you, trying to get you away from us." "Stop!" My voice cracked like a whip. "Jennifer has nothing to do with this. This is my decision, mine alone." "But why?" Carol's voice was pleading now, desperate. "We've been taking care of you. We've been here for you. Why would you do this?" "I know what you said." Carol froze. "What?" "I heard you. Both of you, 6 weeks ago in this kitchen. You thought I was upstairs resting, but I came down for tea. I heard every word. The color drained from Carol's face. I don't know what you think you heard, Dennis started. When she dies, we decide who gets her house. I quoted Carol's exact words. You discussed splitting the money 50-50. You planned to contest my will, claim I wasn't competent, document your caregiving as proof you deserved this house more than Jennifer. That's not... We were just... Carol was stammering. You were just planning to steal my daughter's inheritance, I finished. Don't bother denying it. I know what I heard. Dennis stood up abruptly. You had no right to listen to a private conversation. In my own house? I had every right. I stood too, facing them both. You want to know the really sad part? I would have helped you. Both of you. If you'd just been honest, if you'd just asked, I would have found a way to help. But you couldn't do that. You had to be greedy. You had to prey on me when I was at my most vulnerable. Carol was crying now. Vivian, please. We're family. Family doesn't do what you did. Dennis found his voice first, and it was ugly. You're making a huge mistake. We'll contest this. We'll prove you weren't in your right mind. Rebecca stepped out from the study where she'd been waiting. I wouldn't recommend that, Mr. Marshall. Dennis spun around. Who the hell are you? Rebecca Chen, Mrs. Marshall's attorney. And before you threaten legal action, you should know that we've documented everything. Mrs. Marshall underwent a full psychological evaluation. Her oncologist provided a comprehensive statement about her mental competency. Every step of this sale was witnessed, notarized, and recorded. You have no case. We'll see about that, Carol said, but her voice shook. Furthermore, Rebecca continued, if you do attempt to pursue legal action, Mrs. Marshall is prepared to testify about the conversation she overheard, the one where you discussed exploiting her terminal illness. It's not terminal, I interrupted. The cancer's stage 2. My prognosis is excellent, actually. You should have seen their faces. All their planning, all their scheming, based on the assumption I'd be dead within months. And here I was telling them I was going to be fine. You lied to us? Carol whispered. I never lied. I told you I had cancer. You're the ones who decided that meant I was dying. You couldn't even wait for an actual terminal diagnosis before you started circling. Dennis's anger had shifted to panic. The house is worth over $600,000. $600,000 exactly, I corrected. I got a fair market price, and that money is going into a trust for Jennifer and my future grandchildren, if I have any. We're your family too, Carol shouted. You're punishing us for one stupid conversation. People say things they don't mean. You meant every word. Jennifer spoke for the first time. Her voice was cold. You've been documenting your caregiving for weeks. You've been building a case to steal my inheritance. Don't pretend this was just talk. Carol turned on her. You don't understand what it's like, Jennifer. You left. You moved across the country and abandoned your mother. We're the ones who've been here. You've been here counting down the days until she died so you could cash in, Jennifer shot back. Don't you dare pretend this was about caring. I think it's time for you both to leave, I said quietly. Vivian, please. Carol reached for my hand. I stepped back. Get out of my house. Well, Marcus's house now. You have no reason to be here anymore. You'll regret this, Dennis said, his face twisted with rage. When you need help, when you're really sick, don't come crying to us. I won't, I promised. I have actual family, people who love me, not for what they can take from me. They left. Dennis slammed the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Carol was still crying. Jennifer came and wrapped her arms around me. I was shaking, the adrenaline finally catching up. It's over, she whispered. Mom, it's really over. Not quite, Rebecca said gently. We need to discuss one more thing. I looked at her. Your will. Let's make sure it's absolutely ironclad, and let's make sure Carol and Dennis aren't in it at all. The moving trucks came 2 weeks later. Marcus had graciously given me extra time to sort through everything, even though the house was legally his. He'd stopped by a few times during the packing. Once he found me crying in the kitchen, surrounded by boxes. Second thoughts? He asked gently. No, just 45 years of memories. It's harder than I expected. He sat down across from me. My grandmother had to leave her home when my grandfather died. She told me something I've never forgotten. She said the house was just the container. The love that filled it goes with you wherever you go. I wiped my eyes. Your grandmother was a wise woman. She'd have liked you. He smiled. And for what it's worth, I'm going to take good care of this place. It deserves to be loved. It does, and I think you'll love it. Jennifer and I packed up the essentials. Frank's photos, our wedding album, Jennifer's baby pictures, a few pieces of furniture that had belonged to my mother. The rest we donated or sold. It was liberating, actually, letting go of things that had weighed me down without my realizing it. Carol called twice. Dennis sent angry texts. I blocked both of their numbers. My oncologist was thrilled with my progress. The chemotherapy was working better than expected. My prognosis had improved from good to excellent. Your positive attitude probably helps, she said during one appointment. I thought about that. Maybe she was right. Maybe finally standing up for myself, taking control of my life, fighting back against people who'd tried to use me. Maybe all of that had given me a reason to fight the cancer too. The condo Jennifer found in Seattle was perfect. 2 bedrooms, one for me and one for guests. A small balcony with a view of Puget Sound. Walking distance to Jennifer's apartment. The day before I flew to Seattle, I drove to the cemetery where Frank was buried. I sat by his headstone and told him everything. I hope I made you proud, I said finally. I hope I did the right thing. The wind rustled through the trees. Frank always said that was how he'd communicate from beyond if he could, through the whispers of wind and leaves. I chose to believe he approved. On the plane to Seattle, Jennifer held my hand. No regrets? She asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. None, I said finally. Carol and Dennis showed me exactly who they were. I'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who see me as a bank account or an inheritance waiting to happen. You're not alone, Mom. You have me. I know, sweetheart. I've always known. 3 months later, I'm settled in Seattle. My hair's growing back curly after the chemo. I kind of like it. I've joined a book club, made friends with my neighbors, and Jennifer comes over for dinner twice a week. I heard through a distant cousin that Carol and Dennis are barely speaking to each other now. Apparently, each one blames the other for their failed scheme. As for me, I'm 72 years old. I beat cancer, I protected my daughter's future, and I'm living exactly where I want to be. They laughed when they thought they could steal my house. I smiled when I sold it right out from under them. And I'm still smiling.